Okay, well, I'd love to have our speakers tell us about Ann Arbor excellence, and we can learn about the different ways we learn and grow in Ann Arbor Public Schools.
Thank you, Jill. Well, good evening. How are you? It's great to see you again. Let's see who's in the room, since these guys will be sharing by level. Those of you with elementary students, where are you? Oh, good. That's great. Middle school parents. Special group there, right? There they are. Great. And high school parents. Very good. Wow. And so I noticed a pattern there. How many of you have students across 2 of the 3 levels? Raise your hand. Oh, God bless you. Good. And anybody with students, I know because I heard it, across all 3. Okay, good. You guys get the gold star tonight. There we go. Very good. Well, thank you. We are so excited to get to share with you this evening, and just a reminder that I'm the warm-up act, and I can go on a long time about this, because if there's one thing we believe in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, it's about having every child have rich opportunities right in their neighborhood school. And so you're going to hear that tonight. When I've been out on Listen and Learns, not only in 2013 but 14, but every year since then, when I've been out on community tours, the first and top priority that I hear again and again is that neighborhood school. And even those of us in the community who may choose to in-district transfer for convenience or whatever, they create their own little community within a school. So our goal is to have a top quality school in every neighborhood. So you're going to hear that tonight. So what you'll see is some consistency in the programming and in quality across the schools. And then you'll also hear in balance tonight the kind of specialized things that go on in particular schools. So these guys, as they share this evening, will really be sharing on both sides of that equation. So a lot of the district initiatives that the community has asked for and we followed through on, and that's expanding young fives and preschool opportunities. That is now in every K-5 campus. Project Lead the Way and STEAM, project-based learning opportunities. That Project Lead the Way program is now in every single one of our campuses. And then our big push for physical infrastructure restoration, which is needed across our district. Our average age of building is 63 years old, and so we need that work. That is also going on in every single one of our campuses. So the board and our team have worked together to really both ensure top quality in every school while also offering some choice and some opportunity. So the opportunities become clearer as you move, as your child develops. So those of you that raised your hand with middle schooler or with a high schooler, you will hear more and more from these 2 guys about choice. And what we've learned over the years is we will either give rich portfolio of opportunities and choices, or students and families will vote with their feet and leave us. So we know that we want to give lots and lots of choice. So you can see that, for example, at our high schools. If you're interested in the magnet program, public policy, engineering, health and health sciences, Skyline's got that. They've got the trimester schedule, which a lot of families prefer. If you want the IB and career program, that is Huron, and it's on a more traditional schedule. And then the folks at Pioneer like for me to say it this way, so I'm following their direction. If you want that Uber, that's what they call themselves, the Uber comprehensive. And they say students can be whatever they want to be at Pioneer High School, because they really try to offer many, many programs. And so those are our 3 high schools. And we invite you to ask questions this evening. We know that where and how your child is educated is one of the most important decisions that you make as a family. So our work is to offer the opportunities that will draw you in, that will engage your student, that will create community, and that will ensure that Ann Arbor Public Schools value, those core values of teaching and learning are apparent in any of the choices that you make. And so with that, we thought we would go in chronological order. So we'll start with elementary with Dawn, and then go to Jazz at middle, and then to Paul at high school, but they may have an entirely different plan. So who's up? Okay, very good, Dawn.
Thank you. First of all, thanks so much for having us all here with you. We love talking about our schools. There's nothing more exciting than sharing some of the great things that are going on. Do you want me to stand? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought they... Do you want me to stand in front of this guy? Okay. Can y'all see okay back there?
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All right, I'll move around. How's that? I'm going to move around. I think I want to start by saying that at each of our elementary schools, there's a guaranteed curriculum. So you can't go wrong in the Ann Arbor Public Schools in any of the elementary schools that you choose. We've got representatives here from each of those. So I bet I could hand the mic over and you could each talk about the wonderful things going on in your buildings. Each one is a little bit unique, of course. Each elementary school has its own kind of personality because they serve smaller communities, and that makes really good sense, right? But if you're interested in curriculum at the elementary level, I'm going to point you to our webpage and invite you to look at Atlas. Atlas is where our guaranteed curriculum lives. It doesn't mean that every elementary school and every teacher at 3rd grade is going lockstep in the same order, but those are standards-based units of study, and those are things that every Ann Arbor student will have exposure to and access to and support to learn and know. So I just want to point you in that direction. Of course, we invite you into our schools at any time to explore and experience the culture and the climate of each of those schools. And we have a couple of places where you can do that, or times when you can do that. One very important time is during kindergarten roundup. So if you are a viewer out there watching this recording, or folks in this room who are trying to make some decisions about your kindergartner, please know that all of the roundup opportunities and the presentations for elementary, kindergarten, and young fives all happen in the month of February. So it makes it very easy. We do try to spread them out, so if you want to see multiple buildings and be part of multiple presentations, that you can get to as many as you would like. And those dates will be posted very soon, and we do advertise those as well in many places. But we welcome you to come at those times and really ask any questions you may have. We're grateful to our PTO partners because they have a very strong presence at our roundups as well. And so you'll get all kinds of information about how to participate at the school, with the PTO, with the teachers. And we love volunteers at elementary. So I'm just going to put a big plug in for that too. I think part of the initiatives that we have been working on over the past 4 to 5 years have a lot to do with personalizing learning. So really knowing students well, academically, socially, and emotionally, and thinking about goal setting with them. And so you may have seen over the years some elements of this coming home. And if you're new to the Ann Arbor Public Schools, you'll see a new iteration of this second semester. But our goal is to empower students to own their learning in more ways than they ever have before. So part of this is helping students understand the targets and the goals for learning, to make the process joyful. It's a very important part of learning, in particular at elementary, and to help them understand that when you want to achieve great things, some of that has to do with setting goals. So we support our students in doing that, and they get to confer with their teachers many times across the year, and they get to celebrate the success when they hit their targets. So we're going to be sharing more about that second semester, this next evolution of goal setting with our students. We're excited about that. You may have noticed, if you are engaged in our elementary schools, that we have undergone a shift in our reporting process. So we have shifted to standards-based reporting. These reflect the state of Michigan standards for learning. And those outcomes are our annual outcomes that are reported on 3 times a year for your children. And those report cards are also available on our website if you want to take a look at those. But we're excited about that progress because it again aligns with Atlas and what teachers are teaching, and there's a consistency to that that I think as parents you can really count on that and explore that. You can't talk about elementary without talking about social emotional, right? Kids learning how to grow together, how to engage together, how to share, how to solve problems, how to self-regulate, how to be caring, how to build trust. They learn a whole lot of things at elementary. And there are lots of adages out there about everything you learned in kindergarten, right? Those things do serve us. So that's a focus for us as a district as well. And you will see some differences in our elementary schools in their approaches to this. And that's because the social emotional approach matches the community. And these are approaches that teachers as a staff buy into. And so you'll see programs like The Leader in Me at schools like Lawton and Dickin. And those programs are focused on developing students as leaders. And so in those schools, if you were to schedule a tour, and I'd encourage you to, you'll be led by students. And they lead a whole lot of things in those schools. It is not a standalone social emotional program, but it is a really important element of both of those schools that makes them unique. In most of our schools, we have a program called Responsive Classroom in place. How many of you are familiar with Responsive Classroom? Okay, so you're in schools where you regularly hear about this. This is an approach to teaching and learning, and it's all about language that is about including all children. And so this is about each child feeling significant in their environment. It's a really important program and one that we'd like to see expanded in every school. It's really beautiful, and it began at Mitchell, and it has expanded into 11 schools across the district, which I won't even try to name because I'll miss a few, but it's a really powerful program, and we'll be supporting expanding into several more schools this summer. So eventually you'll see it in each school. And you are going to see and hear sometimes a program called mindfulness. How many of you are familiar with mindfulness? Okay, so a lot of you. Yeah, so a lot of articles recently about being mindful and what that means, and having reflection time for students to remember and to think about what it's like to make decisions from a place of calm, which certainly helps in problem solving and self-regulation. So we have a few schools that have all been trained in mindfulness, and some of those are our K-8s. So I bet you Jazz will talk about that as well. We do, outside of Kindergarten Roundup, I promised you 2 opportunities to engage with our schools and to tour. So the second one would be in the spring to reach out and schedule a tour. So if you're interested in seeing other schools across our district, our elementary team is ready in the spring to do that. They regularly schedule weekdays when they offer tours, group tours, and they'll answer any questions you may have about their school. There is nothing like experiencing a school firsthand. So I would really encourage you to just walk in the front doors and take a walk around. You'll get a feel for what they're like. You'll know about a fit for your family probably within the first 10 minutes that you're there. And our schools are ready to do that for you every spring. And then some exciting work across the district just at elementary. We recently upgraded every playground. So hopefully you've experienced some new equipment, or it's on the way to be installed this summer. But we're excited about that and grateful to all of our voters who helped support that 2015 bond, because our kids and our families are reaping the benefits of those playgrounds. So thank you, and check those out, because those do represent also what mattered to the community when they selected those pieces. So I'm happy to take any questions you may have, if you have elementary specific. Otherwise, we can rock through to middle school and take questions at the end. Go through? Perfect. Hold that question. We'll be back. And I'm going to introduce my colleague, Ms. Jazz Parks, Executive Director of Middle Level.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit about our K-8 schools and our middle schools here in the district. I'll start with our K-8 schools because they have kind of specific programming that might be of interest. There are going to be some smaller middle school experiences for your children should you select one of those programs. Ann Arbor Open offers an educational alternative for students and families that's really founded and rooted on learning experiences through problem solving and academic goals that are achieved through an integrated approach that's child-centered. and so that the teacher is more of the facilitator and the child is more the director of his or her own learning. The idea is that students or children don't do things kind of at a given age or time. They do things in their own time, and when it feels comfortable for them to be ready to move on to the next level of learning. And so Ann Arbor Open would be a great choice for students who fit that profile. Ann Arbor STEAM, it's a K-8 school in which the primary focus of STEAM is project-based learning. And so the project-based learning involves thinking processes where students work together around kind of a design thinking model. And STEAM refers to it as flare and focus. So students are able to flare and generate and explore their ideas, and teachers help them to focus in on those ideas in order to be able to meet the outcomes that are set forward, obviously by the state, but also by their teachers and the project-based learning coordinator there at STEAM. We are going through an enhancement process for Carpenter Elementary, which will become a K-8 school. Next school year, the 1920 school year, it'll go K-6. The subsequent school year, it will be K-7, and then a couple years down the road, it will be K-8. And so at this time, that doesn't have a specific program associated with that enhancement. We're still working through that process right now, though, so can't say with any finality just yet what it will look like, but we are going through that expansion process with Carpenter. In addition to those options, you have your we call them the comprehensive middle schools. So that's Clay, Forsyth, Scarlett, Sloss, and Tappan. Those are going to be obviously larger schools for your students, hundreds of students. Our largest one is Tappan at almost 800 students. And so that's going to come with a certain set of, joys and challenges associated with having so many students in that type of space in such large numbers. But just like elementary, our middle schools offer a guaranteed curriculum. And so you're going to get a guaranteed curriculum for your children no matter which middle school they attend. One of the distinctions or distinct differences in terms of how the curriculum is offered would be Scarlett, where we have IB. That's our middle school that offers IB. And so there's going to be a little bit of a distinctions between how the curriculum is offered. Still part of our guaranteed curriculum, but it's just going to be delivered a little differently than you will find at some of our other comprehensive middle schools, and differently from our K-8 schools as well. We work really intentionally on transitioning students to middle school no matter what. Going from 1 or 2 teachers a day to 7 is definitely heaped in challenges. The great thing about it, though, is that students get it and pick it up really, really quickly. They pick it up far faster than we do as parents. The changes, which teacher you have what hour, how do you navigate lunch with so many people in what seems like so little time? How do you open a locker? That is the #1 source of tears the first week of school for middle schoolers. So navigating lockers, things like that, we help them with. We also have, much like Ms. Linden talked about for elementary, a targeted focus on social emotional learning and relationship building. The things that they learned in kindergarten and elementary school, they continue to grow and learn, enhance, and develop and work on when they get to middle school. So we have programs in place to help them with that. At Ann Arbor Open, you will find they work with mindfulness. They work on mindfulness like Ms. Linden talked about. At STEAM and the other comprehensive middle schools, you will find a program called Developmental Designs, where they work on having a common language in the environment. They work on having opportunities for students to be able to calm themselves, to be able to self-regulate and self-manage, and process that through with a trusted adult so that they can be proactive and pro-social students in our learning spaces in ways that are appropriate. And when they are having some difficulty with that, we have structures in place to help support them. One of the things that we have moved towards these past couple years in our middle schools is restorative practices. For all of the proactive things that we do with students, sometimes we still get to a point where we have to help support them through challenges or conflict. And so we do have restorative practices that all of the middle schools have received training in. We also have students who have been trained as peer and conflict managers and mediators. And we have that in each of our comprehensive middle schools, as well as STEAM, and as well as open as well. And so that's something that we're really proud to have been able to implement in the middle schools in the past few months, the peer mediators and conflict mediators as well. And so again, just like in our elementary programs, we offer guaranteed curriculum in each school. It's going to be a little unique, much like the kindergarten run that's coming in the late winter, early spring. Each of our middle schools, as well as STEAM and open, have transition and parent community evenings for families so that you can hear the specifics about each school. Again, although we have so many things in common, each of them have their own DNA. And so it would be certainly something that you might be interested in doing and attending if you have a youngster who's transitioning up to middle school. And so with that, I'll turn it over to my high school partner, Mr. DeAngelis.
Good evening. I think, as most of you know, we're very fortunate in the Ann Arbor Public Schools to have 5 amazing choices when it comes to high school education. And I just want to highlight each of the 5 schools, and then I think we're going to open it up to questions because we wanted to do this as quickly as we could so that you had plenty of opportunity to ask us some specific questions about maybe some of the choices that you are making, have made, advice that you may want to give to other parents as they reach out to you as potential experts in what we do here in Ann Arbor schools. But so fortunate. When I came here 2.5 years ago, I was amazed at the quality of programming that we offer here in Ann Arbor. And I say that coming from a peer district. I came from the Birmingham Public Schools, where we had amazing programming there, and then I came here and said, wow, this is the way you should run a school district, especially when you want to live into that theme of offering, or that commitment, I should say, of offering your students, your families, every opportunity possible. And with our 5 campuses, our 5 schools, we certainly do that. As you know, our 3 comprehensive high schools are Huron, Pioneer, and Skyline. They all operate in very different ways while still serving our students and our families very, very well. Our levels of academic achievement are out of this world. Our level of achievement that our students see in the arts and in athletics and in community organizations is just spectacular. Huron operates on our IB program. I think most of you know this because we have touted this quite a bit, but Huron is the only school in the state of Michigan that offers the middle years program, the diploma program, and the career program through the International Baccalaureate program. It's the only school in the state of Michigan, one of the very few in the entire country, that offers all of those programming. And the CP program, the career program, is something that's new, but what it allows for is for students to earn that diploma as they would through the IB program, with a focus on a career strand. And we're continuing to advance those strands. We'll be announcing some additional opportunities for students over the course of the next couple of years. But what's happening at Huron with that IB program is nothing short of amazing. Huron still offers an AP program. They still have the tradition, what we call in Ann Arbor the traditional AP program, as do our other 2 comprehensive high schools. But they're centered really around the development of this IB program. The students in 9th and 10th grade, especially those that are coming out of the middle school, are working on that middle years, that middle years certification that they complete in 10th grade. And then once students complete 10th grade, as they go into 11th and 12th grade, then they have the opportunity to take AP, take DP, take neither, take both. They have lots of options. And we have students that are actually working toward the diploma program, which requires them to take a certain number of courses in the DP curriculum to earn that special certification, that special diploma at the end. Huron works on a 7-period day. Unlike the other 2 high schools, Huron has a 7-period day, and that's required by IB. In order to be an IB school, there's a certain number of courses you have to offer each day, and so they're set up on 7 50-minute periods throughout their day. One of the things that they love to brag about over at Huron is that this year, not only did they lead the county, but they were right at the top of the state in the number of students who earned the National Merit Semifinalist status. That's students earn that by the score that they earn on the PSAT that's given in 11th grade. This past year, and Huron's always near the top of the state, but this year they had 39 National Merit finalists. You will find counties in this state that don't have 39 National Merit semifinalists, and Huron was what produced 39 for this past year. Pioneer High School, as Dr. Swift alluded to earlier, they love to call themselves the uber comprehensive high school. They're on a very traditional, what we call 6-period day. However, they do have a 7th period at Huron that starts, or at Pioneer, that starts after 2:36, and about 20% of the student body actually take advantage of that opportunity to take an additional course. Some of those students actually use that 7th period so that they don't have to have a 1st period course, but many students take that 7th period just to pick up another course, especially students who may have a conflict with the arts or something in their schedule and want to pick something else up. The administration at Pioneer does a great job of developing a very comprehensive selection of courses for students in that 7th period. Pioneer is truly one of those just very unique and amazing traditional high schools that offers one of the top AP programs that I've ever seen. They get recognized on a regular basis by colleges and universities for the quality of that AP program, as do our other schools. But because that is their main focus for our most advanced students, they do get a lot of credit for running a very comprehensive and a high-quality AP program. Skyline High School, our newest of the high schools, it's going on its 2nd decade now, is centers on the 4 magnet programs. Did you mention the 4 magnets? If not.
I mentioned about 3 of them.
All right. I always have to remember, because they changed the name of 2 of them. So the 4 magnet programs at Skyline High School are the communications, media, and public policy, the business, marketing, and information technology, the health and medicine, and the design, technology, engineering, and prototyping magnet program. Students can choose to go into that magnet program in their 10th grade year, and it really focuses their coursework not only in the courses that are specific to those magnets, but some of their core coursework to a potential career related to one of those 4 magnets. It's built around smaller learning communities. It's on a 5-period day, and they run on a trimester schedule. So they've already completed basically their 1st semester. They did that right before Thanksgiving. They're now in their 2nd term, whereas our other 2 comprehensive high schools won't reach their 2nd term until the end of January. So the advantages of the trimester schedule is students are only taking 5 courses at a time. The periods are a little bit longer, which affords teachers to do some different things. The philosophy or the approach of teaching, of pedagogy in that building is around project-based learning and mastery learning for students. That longer class period certainly allows for some unique ways in which to deliver instruction and to create really unique ways of assessing students and focusing on mastery. The other advantage of that trimester schedule is because they have 15 options every year built within, students have a little bit more flexibility in some of the elective courses that they can take. Our 4th high school is Community High School. Community is a lottery-based school. We're coming up on lottery time again, so families that may be interested in going to Community, be looking for some information that'll be coming out very soon about the window for applying to the lottery at Community. It's going to open up right around the middle of January, and there'll be lots of information out there. It'll be on our main website. It'll be on the Community website. Community is built around this idea of the community being a resource for students. If you have a student at Community, you know they spend a lot of time out in the community. They spend a lot of time in a very unique, modified block format of their schedule with a forum period, where they're meeting in kind of small groups. And if you've ever been to their graduation, you know they graduate in their forum. So they're together for 4 years with students, and they're really experiencing their education, not only in the classroom, but out in the community, doing some really interesting and creative projects that relate to not only Ann Arbor proper, but the community around us. And then our last of the schools, and one that I'm really excited to share with you about, because this is probably the first time I think I've been able to talk publicly about some of the really good work we're doing at Pathways for Success Campus, which is oftentimes referred to as our alternative high school. Over the last couple of years, the staff, led by a really strong administrative team, has really begun rethinking what alternative education should look like in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. Oftentimes, that school had kind of a bad rap, that it was a place where troubled kids may go, kids who were deficient in credits may go, and while some of that is true, it also is a school that offers some very unique programming, and as they've been working over the last year and a half, expanding some of that very unique programming. And so the new theme of the work that they're doing in that school is to create an environment where we're accelerating students' post-secondary options. Accelerating students' post-secondary options. Too often times, alternative high schools are built where we just try to get kids to the finish line of getting a diploma, right? Getting them all those credits that they may have been lacking, or dealing with some students who may be having some challenges and getting them to that finish line that we call, high school graduation. We want to change all of that. We want students to have a running start. We want them to be so far on the other side of that finish line by accelerating their post-secondary experience. So we're expanding opportunities for students to earn credits by getting co-ops and internships outside of the building. We're expanding opportunities for students to be dual enrolled and getting credits like that. We're just changing everything there is about the experience there and creating an individualized plan for students that say, when you come through the doors, whether you're fully loaded with credits, whether you're behind in credits, whether you start in 9th grade, whether you start in 10th grade, we're putting a plan together that doesn't just get you that high school diploma, but gets you experiences, credits, other kind of opportunities that'll put you on the other side of that, way on the other side of that finish line of high school graduation, so that you've got a running start at the rest of your life. And what I've seen in just the last year or so has been some of the experiences that students have been, some of those students that have taken advantage of some of these early offerings, it's transformed their lives. Because they're not just talking about being a high school graduate. They're talking about being a college student. They're talking about being a contributor in the workforce because they've had experiences that allow them to leave high school and get a job, a meaningful job, and for many of those students, the first opportunity they've ever had to do something very, very meaningful. And so I'm excited to share a little bit of that with you. More to come on what we're doing over at Pathways, but some really, really unique programming that's happening in that building. Most of all, across all 5 campuses, I just want to share with you that the commitment to equity, and most importantly, improving and increasing access and opportunity for every single student to have any and all experiences they want and any and all interventions and supports that they need is the commitment that we have across all 5 campuses. That's what makes all 5 schools the same, I guess, to put it in a very basic way. We focus and we talk every day about access and opportunity for all students. We talk about how important it is, whether you're a big comprehensive or a small school like Pathways and Community, about those relationships that adults build with students. The relationships that adults build with students, because that's the most important thing when it comes to providing all of the supports, all of the interventions that students may need, all of the opportunities that students may need. And we say this across all 5 schools. It's about the demonstrated commitment of all of our adults to the successful learning for all students. That is the consistent work that we do across all 5 of our high schools. Because if we're going to talk about equity, and more specifically about access access and opportunities for all students, it begins with a demonstrated commitment by every adult to that work. And we're very, very proud of the work that we've done with regard to that. A couple of the other things that often come up when we talk about high schools, our students face a lot of pressures, deal with a lot of things, and we're not unique in Ann Arbor that we deal with social, emotional, and mental health issues of our students. And I can tell you this, we have made an enormous commitment in resources and time and attention to improving the way we support students. That work continues every day. I'm proud to say that oftentimes our principals, our administrators, our support teams are being asked by schools within this county and schools across the state, schools within our peer district, what are you doing? Because we're hearing that great things are happening to support students in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, and that is a commitment that we will continue to make, because we've got a long way to go before we feel like we're really, truly supporting students the way they need to, because this is such a complex and difficult issue to manage. I was just recently at a conference in Texas. There were representatives from about 60 different districts across the country. And guess what the number one topic that central office and superintendent administrators wanted to talk about? Mental health. It was the number one topic because it's something that we struggle with. The other thing that we're very proud of is at the high school level, and this really does go across all 5 campuses, because students who attend community and attend pathways can participate back at their comprehensive high schools. But we run the most comprehensive athletic program of any district in the state of Michigan. We have over 30 sport offerings at all 3 schools. We are blessed with, and I think last month I was here with Eve? Last month I was here with Eve, so you got to hear a little bit about that. But for those of you that weren't here, we run a very comprehensive and very successful athletic program, and our participation numbers for students, not only at the sub-varsity but at the varsity levels, are continue to grow every single year. Thank you.
We want to get to questions, Jill, but there were 2 things I neglected to mention in my introduction. First was our commitment across the district to world language. In the Ann Arbor Public Schools, we see world language as a core study. And so you will note, and it's on our website, or I could get it to you, Jill, that we offer 7 world languages, 5 of them through the AP level. Each of those languages we've added. Back in 2014, the community said, add some less traditional world languages. And so we've added, since then, Mandarin and Arabic and American Sign Language. So, so those language pathways do follow a vertical path in the district, and we can help you with that if you have those questions. And then I wanted to end on the arts. I would be remiss if I didn't mention our district-wide commitment to the arts. It doesn't matter where you go to school. Every 5th grader in the district will be delivered their own instrument, and they will play in the band. And we're so proud that commitment to the arts starts in 5th grade and goes all the way through graduation. Our schools have won Grammy Awards. You might say, how can a public school win a Grammy Award? Well, it's very rare, and yet we've won several in the district. Had the great opportunity to be at Carnegie Hall 2 years ago with Pioneer High School. They're not the only high school that's played Carnegie Hall here in the district. Others have as well. And our arts groups travel the world to perform, and that's an important part. And I wanted to touch, while I was there on the international travel for the arts, I wanted to touch on our international education. We're now working with our students not only to welcome in exchange students, but just starting, as we've been planning for about 4 years, to send our students on student exchanges. And that's happening through Ms. Bacalor's community division. And so some of those are year-long exchanges, like our exchange students are here from about 78 countries this year. But our students may choose to do that, or they may choose a brief exchange. So we'll do summer programming and winter break programming, and yes, some of them zip away over spring break and have a few extra days on either side. Have any of your students been a part of Hickory exchange that we do at middle school? Okay, it's a wonderful almost 50 years we've been doing that exchange. Wonderful. They come here and we go there to Hikone, Japan. There are many of those kinds of programs. So, Jill, how about, do you want to be the MC here? And we'll, thank you.
I think we'll have you keep that mic and
Okay.
pass it among yourselves, and then I'll go around to ask questions.
Very
I did
good,
want
thank
to
you.
start with a question on A2 virtual.
Yes.
I don't know who's the
yes.
best person to speak. Perhaps you are.
I so apologize that we didn't preview that. A2 Virtual runs alongside all of our campuses, and people say, well, where is it? Well, it's virtual. So it's there, and our virtual, we believe, is so much better than what is offered across the state. Some of those are not perfect quality, I'll just say it that way. And ours, there's a fully certificated Ann Arbor Public Schools teacher behind every single virtual course. We now offer some 300 courses. We find that our students most often take virtual class to accelerate themselves in the district. The second most common reason is to make their schedule work, either with an activity or with a sport or with sleep needs or family needs. And then thirdly, it is an opportunity for students to remediate and get credit when maybe they have lost credits. I also hear from parents of special needs students that they use virtual a lot just to get repetition. That is very important so ground is not lost over the summer and those kinds of times. So virtual is a wonderful possibility for any of our students beginning in 5th grade through 12th grade. And those of you who follow state law know that we are obligated to offer virtual education from 5th through 12th. So whether folks love it as their favorite thing, and some do, and whether folks just don't care for it, we are the provider of that. And we certainly have lots of customers, and we're proud of that program. So, great.
So I have a question about world languages. I believe, my kids aren't in elementary anymore, but I believe you still have Spanish in elementary. You
We
still
do.
offer it at all the elementaries.
We do.
So it seems that it's easier to learn a language with the younger you are.
Yes.
Have you thought about introducing any other languages at the elementary level, like especially languages like Mandarin, where you need to learn tones, which are easier to understand when you're young?
Thank you so much. We are on that path to expand language opportunities at elementary. It was one of the predominant themes that we've heard again and again from the community. I am an old world language teacher, not old, shall I say, experienced. World language teacher, I believe in world language, absolutely. And so we've started that process. We'd like to continue it. It's the kind of thing that we really want to advocate for additional funds for, because it really is important for our students to have that. So Donna's going to help you with which schools do which other languages. They do all have Spanish, and then
Thank you. So we have the non-traditional world languages in corridors so that students are able to continue their study. That's important because you wouldn't want to take something at 4th and 5th and then get to middle and have it not be an option for you. So we have them strategically placed. So if you were to work backwards, if you were taking Mandarin Chinese, you could have that at Huron, Clegg, Steam, and King, Lawton, Thurston. That's where that pathway exists. Or forward, King, Lawton, Thurston, and on up through Huron. Arabic is another pathway, so that's at Allen, Carpenter, Mitchell, and on through Scarlett, and then to Huron. And you'll see Latin is only offered at Tappan, and then again at Community Huron, Pioneer, and Skyline. We have American Sign Language that is offered at Pioneer, Skyline, Pathways, and Community. So we absolutely love that addition. That's fairly new. I think that might cover it.
And wildly popular. American Sign Language is wildly popular. Chinese is also at Pioneer and Skyline. So the three comprehensive all have Mandarin Chinese. Yeah. We do have it on the website, and it may need an update. It's at a2schools.org, but we're going to double check it. I think it's accurate. Okay, good. Good, thank you.
I'm wondering how those schools were picked for those pathways, and what is the number of schools that are only offering Spanish versus schools that are offering multiple languages? And when might we expect to see that in the lower grades?
Thank you for that question. All high schools have offered all of the traditional languages, and then when we were ready to add Arabic and Chinese and American Sign Language, we really based that. I personally worked on that, and we based it on demand, on what the parents at that school most often were asking for. We would love to offer all 7 at every location, and yet that's just not financially feasible. At middle schools, it has been a function. First of all of our middle schools offer language, so that's good. But it has been a function both of parent and student demand, and quite frankly, some of it is historic. There are a couple, at least 1 or 2 middle schools who have world famous Latin teachers, and so they developed this strong Latin program over years, and so they have this following. So some of it is consistent across the system, and some of it has just grown up. I'll be clear on that. We would love to offer more at elementary. Our goal is to have language in every elementary in addition to the Spanish. We're not there yet, and it is only a function of financial concerns, because we have the desire among our community and the strong commitment on our team and with the board. So it is just about the money.
The elementary schools that offer Spanish plus,
Mm-hmm.
are there ones that offer more than 2 languages?
No, everyone offers, not everyone, but the ones who do offer Spanish and 1 other. Yes, very good. I will also add that there are a number of language clubs. So, for example, our Japanese neighbors have talked to me often about Japanese, and I would love for that to be the 8th language. But until then, we offer Rec and Ed, and there are a number of activities around the district. Yes?
Just one point of clarification. Even if no longer use Spanish or coding.
You're doing coding as your language now, and that is so cool. And yet we want you to have a world language too. So we'll be wrapping back to you on that. Yeah, great. Thank you for clarifying. Yes, Adriana?
On the world languages, just to continue that questioning, kind of 2 questions. What are the, trying to figure out which one's the best one to ask first. The requirements or qualifications of the teachers, all the way through. Like, I've had my only exposure to the language program has been in elementary school and in middle school, and as someone who has lived overseas for a long time, I was kind of shocked that my kids haven't once had a native speaker as their language instructor, and we've had Spanish and German, and in a town like Ann Arbor, I found that kind of shocking, because that's not the world standard for teaching languages. And then along that, for the elementary school, I think it's fantastic that we have Spanish, but in my daughter's school, she doesn't have it year-round. She only has it when the U of M students are available, which is, it felt a little misleading to say that that program is not, she studies it for a few weeks and then she's got a couple weeks off, and it's not, I wonder how much she's actually learning from a non-native speaker who's not there very often.
Very good. I'll go at both of those questions. All of our world language teachers are fully certificated by the state of Michigan. That does not mean that they're native speakers. I was a world language teacher. I taught Spanish for many years. I was not a native speaker of Spanish. We do have many world language teachers who are native speakers, but they aren't all native speakers. And we certainly, in the district, have many staff members who are native speakers of other languages who are not certificated to teach their language. So that probably doesn't make any sense at all, but those are the ins and outs of certification.
The focus is more on certification than actual pronunciation, and I mean, I've listened to some of this stuff, and I kind of think, oh, you know, that's interesting. Like the kids aren't, part of learning at a young age is the pronunciation and getting the flow.
Well, in order to be certificated, they have had to pass some pretty high-level proficiency exams. So I may want to speak with you offline about that. But the requirements are pretty rigorous for teaching of another language. Does anybody want to add to that?
I wonder, and I agree we should probably talk offline too because I want more detail about that. I wonder if the addition of some U of M students who are learning the language as part of an A2LP program that we have aren't the ones doing some of the speaking that you're hearing.
I would love to know with the other parents, like what their experiences are. Is it just at, an Angel or right at U of M? We have a great relationship with U of M students of all different things, and
Sure.
But my daughter, for the one hand, loves the fact that they're U of M students.
Yeah.
They're fun. On
Yeah,
my
good
point,
person.
yeah. So like that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
However, just the inconsistency
Yes.
is a little concerning. So do other people have?
Well, beginning in 4th and 5th, those are AAPS certified teachers teaching those programs.
Very good. And then your second question about world language was about?
It was kind of just the number of hours and just that kind of.
It is not unusual for a kinder through 6th grade program across the country to not be every day of the school year. That is not unusual at all.
Every day, 3 days a week, and then they'll have like a whole month after.
I understand exactly what you're saying. But beginning in 4th grade, they should be on a regular schedule of language. So I would like you and Dawn to maybe chat, just so we can make sure that we're clear on all of that.
Does everyone else in elementary school, are they also using U of M students, or is it actual?
Technically, we've actually no longer offered to 3rd grade.
Right.
We've gone to only
Just
4th
4th
and
and
5th
5th.
with the certified teachers.
Mhm.
That's true across the
But you'll see the A2LP students still working in 4th grade alongside teachers.
Okay.
So you're still going to see that partnership, it just doesn't exist anymore.
But it doesn't age.
I don't really know.
She's been there since my youngest. When we moved to Angel, it was 3rd grade. So
So that,
We don't have a 3rd grader.
not anymore.
so that shift occurred this year.
She's had a student teacher in 4th grade. So, and I've kind of stopped asking. She has no problem with it. And I'm no longer relying on her exposure to foreign language being in school, and it's back to parent, which, is probably not even as good as the school. So, I just don't think that she's going to pick up a language. Some people are like, oh, there's a great language program. Like, it's not.
I hear you, absolutely. Thank you.
My experience is that I feel like my kid very superficially samples a language. Both my parents are foreign. I don't speak another language, unfortunately, because that time wasn't what we were up to. But even in middle school, I just was pulling my hair out that you would get a quarter of a language, and then you couldn't take another quarter and keep building on it. It felt like we're forever doing numbers that without actually the language.
So that is exactly what we're focused on in the district, is driving that more comprehensive world language to lower grades. And right now it really begins about the serious, about 7th grade is where you see that now. We'd like that to be down to 3rd, 2nd, 1st. Now our IB schools offer full world language from kinder through 12th. That's a requirement of the IB program. So I will make that clarification. Thank you.
Can I add something
something. I actually like the fact that kids sample language in middle school because I have 3 kids, they each chosen a different language, but then it was the language they wanted to study. Because you've got to take it till you're, till about through, for sure, 2 semesters equivalent of high school, but more if you want to go to a top-notch school. So to make your kid take a language just because that's the only language that's offered, that's not fun for them. So I have a French, I have a Spanish, I have a German, but at least that's what they like, and so they each want to.
If I may jump in there, for 6th grade, that's exactly what it is, and that is the model that we believe in. It's called an exploratory model where students can try multiple languages and multiple other elective offerings as well, because for some students, they just don't have an interest in a world language. So you might get a quarter of a language in 6th grade. Once you get to 7th grade, if a student elects, because by the time they get to middle school, they do get to, or 7th grade, they get to course select what they're interested in. They take a semester. So they take a semester of a language. They can take another semester of a different language that second semester if they have an interest in that. And then when they get to 8th grade, they take a year's worth of their language, which they can receive high school credit for. So there's a progression through those years, 6th, 7th, 8th.
If they repeat a language from 6th grade and 7th grade, they're starting over. There's no building. It's just repeating the basics.
They actually go through that 6th grade 1/4 part very, very quickly. I taught that. It happens in a matter of days, and then you're into really.
He repeated the same language again, which he already had 2 years of. I think that's getting a little off topic, but it's not. I wish that was made more clear to the parents that 7th grade could be another exploratory year rather than expecting some progression in the language. Because I was told by his German teacher that it's not until 8th grade that he's actually going to be.
It depends on the language. It depends on the school. If they're taking a semester of language at 7th grade, they are getting significant learning in that language. I mean, that is a good foundation that they're getting there. But I hear you, absolutely hear you about the repeat. Yeah.
So I have 2 questions, or a question and maybe a comment. So the first one is pretty straightforward. So when Carpenter moves K-8, Carpenter currently feeds into Scarlett, so exiting 5th grade, will those students have the option of going to Scarlett or staying at Carpenter?
Absolutely, just like we do at the feeders to STEAM. They may come over at 6th grade, or they may be there throughout.
Okay.
They absolutely can do, or they may go to Clay. They may do either one.
Okay, and then my other is about community, and I know it's a lottery, and my oldest child went to community, and it was an excellent school for him. My second child was offered a seat at community and declined it and went to Huron, which has been an excellent school for him.
Okay.
But I know of students who really wanted to go to community who didn't make their number for the lottery.
Right.
And I wondered if the district had considered offering a limited number of spots for each 8th grade program where teachers and counselors might tag certain students who they really think need a school like community. I mean, my son was very fortunate. I think his number was like 30-something, and so I just don't know how my oldest would have done at a large comprehensive. And so I'm not sure what we would have done if he weren't lucky enough to have gotten in. But I do know some students who've left the district because they didn't fit in at those. And one of them is someone I've known since kindergarten, and I think she is a kid who would have thrived at community. And I think it's great to have a mix of kids there, but I think that maybe there are some kids who really need it, and maybe we could find a way to make sure that they can get there.
Because it's a lottery school, this is tricky, and we've worked all around this topic over many years. Certainly, any student in the district, if under certain circumstances, can dual enroll. So they can spend part of their day at a comprehensive and part of their day at community. Because it is a lottery school, we're not in any way allowed to tag students to have that opportunity. So, and we have legal opinions on that because we've been pressed over the years, as you might imagine. And the good news, as far as supply and demand goes, is that 6 years ago when I first started this work, there were many, many times the applications as there were students that we could take at community. There still are more applications than what we can take, but the ratio is dramatically smaller gap there between the number who apply and the number we can take. So, and the reason we believe that's happened is our enhancement of the options in all the other campuses.
I would agree.
So we're hoping, but if a child wants a smaller school setting, I would just invite them to reach out to us. There are a number of things we can talk to them about to try to get that, and also the idea of dual enrollment, which we have a fair number of students who do that.
And my son was actually in class with Janine's daughter who did that, you know.
Oh, good. She did.
But I mean, for him, my oldest kid, he's my quirky kid, and he really, I think it would have been too much for him to go back and forth. And
Sure.
that's why I just thought, you know, there are some kids who, like, he needed it, and he was lucky and he got it.
Yeah.
And my second kid could probably go to any of the schools, and he'd make his way just fine,
Yeah.
you know. But there are those kids who really need it, and it's such a great place
It
for
is.
those kids. That,
Yes.
but knowing that there's a legal reason, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Community rep, did you want to add to any of that? You probably have some additional insight.
No, I don't think so. I think that the diversity of the student body is such that people who really need it sometimes get in, and some who really need it are just not fortunate enough to get in. But I don't think that there's an easy remedy to that.
Thank you.
Can you address the dual enrollment? Did you?
Well, I was going to speak to that.
Split enrollment, excuse me.
So, yeah, since I did learn that there is a differential
Dual enrollment
difference
is something else, yes.
in terminology when my daughter split enrolled between, she was number 400 and something, and they only took 136, and so she did not get into community. She ended up at Pioneer. She was very happy there, but wanted to sort of see what community was all about, and ended up taking 2 classes her sophomore year, 2 blocks, or 2 classes. So the way their block scheduling works, it is a little bit complicated. So she took first and second block, which meant first block meant Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and second block met Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Monday through Thursday were longer times, and both classes met on Fridays. So that sort of took, and then she had no third hour at Pioneer. So she had about an hour and a half between lunch and that third hour. And she took the city bus, AATA bus, from downtown to Pioneer, and then had a fourth, 5th, 6th, 7th. So then she had 4 classes and used that 7th hour at Pioneer. It worked wonderfully for her. She liked that break in the day. It was just a different experience for her, and she really enjoyed it. She was not able to sort of make it work schedule-wise the rest of the time, but it allowed her to sort of know what she was or wasn't missing, and I think she, left there thinking that was a great experience. I liked it, but I'm just as happy at Pioneer as I would have been. And dual enrolling is when, and that was sort of one of my questions, so I'll piggyback on that. Dual enrolling is when you're getting college credit for, so taking a class either at University of Michigan, which you can do through the CS, Community Resources program that is operated through community high school but is available to anybody in the district. And then you can also take classes, is that also through CR at WCC classes? So that was my question, was what are the different ways that high schoolers can get college credit in the district?
And happy to talk about that because it is something that we worked real hard to continue to expand opportunities for students. Let me go back to split enrollment just for a moment because I think you had a question. Any student at the high school, whether they're at community or the 3 comprehensives or pathways, can elect to take a course or courses at another high school, provided that there's room. It's called split enrollment. So, for instance, we have some students who start their day at Pathways but finish their day at Huron. We have some students who want to take a unique offering at Pioneer, so they'll begin their day at Huron and spend the last hour of the day over at Pioneer. It's called split enrolling, and that option is available to students across the board. In fact, we have some students who are choosing to have that later start of the day. They start their day at Huron, they finish their day at Pioneer, because Pioneer has that 7th period, so they can basically have a full schedule. They just split and roll and go across the buildings. Dual enrollment, so when students are in the CR program through community high school, they're not actually earning college credit for those courses. They may be taking a college course, but they're auditing that course and they're getting high school credit for that course. Dual enrollment, and we have agreements with University of Michigan, we have agreements with Eastern Michigan, Washtenaw Community College. There are a couple of other options. When a student has exhausted our curriculum and is looking for another opportunity, and this could be academically. In fact, the University of Michigan, because we have so many students that advance in math, the University of Michigan has an entire course offering that happens at the end of our school day between 2 and 4 o'clock of their schedule, where our students go to the University of Michigan, they take that advanced math course or an advanced English course, and then they can receive college credit. Now, that always comes with a caveat. We always try to explain to parents that it depends on which university you're going to as to whether or not that university will actually accept that credit, much like when students take an AP course, they get a 5, and they think they're going to get college credit for that. It depends on where they're going to college. So we always remind our parents to speak with their counselors about this. But there's opportunities for our students to earn college credit through WCC, Eastern, or the University of Michigan once they've exhausted our curriculum or taking something that maybe our curriculum doesn't offer. We have some advanced photography students that have exhausted our photography courses and in their junior and senior year are at WCC taking a photography course, and they can actually earn college credit while fulfilling their graduation requirements.
So is there an extra cost associated with that?
Great question. So the state has a formula as to how much a district can pay. So a student would be enrolled with us for, if they're a Pioneer student, they would be enrolled with us for 5 hours. They would take that 6th course at WCC, U of M. We can pay up to a certain amount, and there's a formula that the state works out, and it's just based on our per pupil foundation grant. And I don't know those exact numbers, but it's a state formula. Everything above that is on the parent to pay for, and books and those types of things are all part of that. Although we do try to help with some of that. We get sometimes students that will donate back a book because maybe a student that's taking that course can't afford the book, and we work out some opportunities for students that way. But the state sets how much we can pay towards tuition.
At WCC, it covers it completely. So a couple of years ago, the most popular WCC course at the Pathway students, I thought it would be like HVAC or EMT or some exciting career class, and it was film. And I remember saying to the kids, why film? And they just thought it was so ultimately cool to go to college and take film. So many of them were getting on the bus at noon or 1 and going to WCC, and they were using public transport. So we just want students to have every opportunity, whatever that looks like.
I'd like to put another plug in for Pathways. So
Sure.
Because my son graduated from Pathways, and we talk about smaller class sizes. Pathways, I agree with Mr. DeAngelis, because my son just graduated last year, that Pathways gives you so many more opportunities and to expand your learning and going into post-secondary. And it has smaller classroom sizes where the teachers can, call you up and say, hey, you weren't in class today because I noticed that you weren't here because there's only 5 people in the classroom. So that's definitely a positive spin on, if you can't get into the lottery at community, truly Pathways might be an opportunity that you should look at.
Thank you for mentioning that. I really appreciate it. And flexible scheduling. At other schools, you have to think about that. At Pathways, it's a part of what's expected is students fit the schedule to what they need.
Just a question. You mentioned transportation, and there are all these great opportunities across the district. One could potentially argue that they're not
about this all the time. So at high school, we are providing those AAATA transport cards whenever they're requested of us. So we're committed that every student who wants to get from point A to point B to further their education, we're going to support that. So we do that across the community. At elementary, you're right. It's going to be harder to do that at elementary, although we have offered the transfers to Ann Arbor Open. So we do provide transportation there and to STEAM as well. But it doesn't mean it's possible. And the thing about STEAM is it's full from the neighborhood now, so there are very few openings there. We'll see Ms. Parks, but not many openings beyond the neighborhood. But we're monitoring those things so that when there's more demand for a program than there is supply, that's when we give thought to where's the next location going to go. It also fed into the provision. The board was so supportive of this, as were we, of providing Project Lead the Way at every single campus, so that every campus has that pathway for students who really love that kind of study.
We have about 7 minutes left. I just wanted to let you know that the floor is open for any questions. This is open mic time, so if you have another question on any topic for anyone in the room, this would be the time to ask. I'm first going to start here with Beth.
Which I will actually continue in the vein of our current conversation. As are many of our questions, mine is sort of rooted in a personal experience, but I'm going to try and generalize it, so I hope it makes sense. So you mentioned A2 virtual, you mentioned that the teachers are certificated, but has the district looked at students who might have been in the virtual environment, particularly if they've been in the virtual environment multiple years, and how they succeed when they come back to the brick and mortar buildings? Because for a lot of reasons, mostly which are good, my son ended up being, for 3 years, doing virtual math, and is now at Huron as a freshman taking some advanced math, and he's just like completely fallen on his face. And I suspect, it's just my personal thought, that it's a very different way of learning in the virtual setting. You know, you get it wrong, it yells at you, and it makes you just go back and do it again, and sometimes again and again. Whereas when you're in brick and mortar, oftentimes you get that one shot, and that's kind of it. So I asked his math teacher about it, and she's like, you know, I really have no idea, and I don't know if I've ever had any students that were in that environment and then came here. And so I just wondered if the district actually looks at that.
We do look at that, and Cindy Lehman, who is the principal at A2 Virtual, they do keep data on it. It isn't, we looked at some about a year ago. It isn't conclusive, but it does show some patterns, and that there are learners who thrive in that online learning environment, and there are others who don't. And so we are looking more and more at blended environments where, and that's been our press to find space in the district where virtual could have their door open, which they don't have right now, because we feel like whatever your learning style, that blended, some face-to-face and some online, is probably the strongest program to offer. So I appreciate you raising it. We don't have anything definitive in terms of data, but we do watch that. And if you have particular concerns, and we hear from folks often, we want to hear them. Yes?
Last year we had a boy from Hakone stay with us for the 10 days. From Hakone, yeah.
Good.
And our kids loved it. So I just wanted to ask about, do you have more information about the foreign exchange program? Not the Hakone one, but the longer offered?
So we would love for you to get that from Miss Jenna Bacalor. Will someone, if we can get your contact, we'll connect you with her, and she'll be happy to make that connection. We have an international learning coordinator who is just the person for you to visit with.
We have time for one more question.
I don't want to monopolize it, but anyone else has one?
Dr. Swift, you mentioned at the very, very, very beginning of the
status of the building, like how old the buildings are. And I remember
The age of
the age of the buildings,
yes.
yes. And that they're all, the average age is 62 years, and the,
63.
63, sorry.
They got older.
The district's committed to upgrading and improving or just catching up. And last year you did the state of the district, and you talked a lot about some infrastructure improvements that we have money for now. And but the next step was that it had to be studied, what was feasible.
Yes.
And I don't know if you remember, but I asked you when that report was going to be available. You said the fall. So I'm wondering, is it ready yet? When's it going to be released?
Adriana, this couldn't have been a better segue. Thank you. Perfect. First of all, since I made that State of the Schools, we did about $24 million of work on our buildings this past summer. And I know some of that you might have noticed, like the bricks at Tappan that got reattached. Elizabeth, you're so glad that they're firmly attached now. And some of that you may have noticed, but a lot of that was HVAC, plumbing, things you wouldn't notice, but you wouldn't notice visibly, but they're very important. A week from Wednesday, so on the 19th, the external assessment of all of our 35 buildings is now complete. So this was a team of engineers and other facilities professionals that have been through every one of our buildings with a flashlight, checking all the guts of every building. And so the report's coming out on the 19th. And the board will see that on the 19th, and then they will also see that again in January as we dive a little deeper. So thank you all. PTO was so instrumental in the passing of that sinking fund, and the $24 million that we invested last summer is just the start. And when you see the numbers on this facilities report, it will blow your mind with all the zeros behind it. But the good news is we want to see our path to bringing our schools, to restoring our schools and updating our schools. So very exciting. Perfect segue. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for attending our meeting, our December meeting for PTOC. I want to let you know that our next meeting is January 28th, and we're happy to talk about social media in the schools. I think our guests are going to be here for a few minutes if you did have another question, and this meeting is adjourned.